Innsbruck is an Olympic city. Twice it has held the Winter Games, and just outside in the mountains is the small town of Igls. And it is here that first a natural and then an artificial track was built for the Winter Olympic sliding disciplines. We find ourselves here for round 8 of the Wiesmann FIBT World Cup. Men's skeleton is on the agenda today, the second of our 2 heats to decide the winner of the World Cup race and the European champion. Well, with a great shot at a medal for the first time this season is Russia's Sergei Chudinov. He lies in 3rd place after the first heat, but for him it's going to be a battle for the bronze. He's got a tough chasing pack snapping at his heels. He needs a good consistent second run. The reason it's going to be a battle for the bronze is that everybody in front is far too far in front. Over 3/10 ahead of him is teammate Alexander Tretyakov, lying in 2nd place after a blistering first performance. But he is similarly nearly 4/10 behind our World Cup points leader. The man in the yellow vest, Martin Stukurs, he's won 6 out of 7 races this year, won this race last year, and just about everything else in sight. And he looks as though he is a lock for victory here. A track record first heat gave him all the advantage he needs, and he doesn't need much. Well, hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Sitting alongside me is Canada's Melissa Hollingsworth. Mel, Martin Stukurs 3,800s ahead of Tretyakov, and Tretyakov similarly the same amount ahead of Chudy, but the battle right behind is going to be of great interest.
And we never see time gaps like that on this short track in Austria. It's always, like you see in the rest of the field, just ties or hundredths of a second difference. So it goes to show that fast start at the top, for quick math, is about every 10th at the top is about 2/10 at the bottom, and the Latvian and the Russians definitely show their strengths there.
Well, you saw we had 26 starters in Heat 1. The fast 20 go through into Heat 2. And as the skeleton athletes are getting ready, so too are the bobsleigh athletes. 2-man competition follows shortly after the end of the men's skeleton. Rico Pater there thinking his way down the track as our athletes make their final preparations. Thomas, Martin Stukurs, Frank Rommel, and all the other front runners will be there. See Kristen Bromley as well in the background. And Melissa, what's going on here? You know, presumably trying to adapt to what they found this morning.
Yes, ice conditions are very different today on race day than what it has been all week in training. We had a lot of snow in the track. It was warmer. Today the ice is cold and hard, so maybe these guys are making some adjustments where they're lowering their rock if they were skidding a little bit, losing some control. Ice has been very clean, so there hasn't been any runner damage unless you had problems in the braking stretch, going over top of the foam, letting your sled ride up on that plexiglass. You might have some scratches in your runners, so you might take the 10 minutes that you have up the top to be polishing up the scratches.
Austria's Raphael Meyer and teammate Matti Guggenberger both made it into the second heat. We go 20 down to 1 in reverse order of your first heat performance, so 20th goes first. And we've got a couple of ties. Kristen Bromley and Dominic Parsons, his teammate rather, tied for 10th. John Montgomery and Christopher Grohair tied for 7th. Last man out of the start shed will be Martin Stukurs, the Latvian who leads this race. And he's got plenty of experience in winning here in Igls. He's also the reigning European champion, so that title will be decided. And at the moment, the Russians, having taken 1st and 2nd in yesterday's women's skeleton Europeans, with their young rookie Yelena Nikitina and Maria Orlova. They were 1st and 2nd ahead of Janine Flock of Austria, the first Austrian woman to ever claim a European skeleton medal. So, -3 degrees, 10:30 in the morning here, high in the Tyrol region outside the Alpine city of Innsbruck. We are ready for the second and deciding heat, race 8 of the Wiesmann FIBT Skeleton Men's World Cup. Martin Haven with Melissa Hollingsworth sitting alongside me watching the action. And the first man on the track is one of the youngest, just 20 years old, Raphael Meyer from Rum, just down the road from the track here. Started sliding here at Igls and skeleton age 10. His younger brother also a skeleton slider.
Lots of energy at the top of the track with all the bobsledders, hometown family. A 5:28 start, that's behind the pack by quite a bit, but he knows this track inside and out. It's how he learned the sport. So he has hundreds of runs, knowing every corner from every entrance and exit of how to navigate his way down the track. First run, he had some issues in Kreisel, which he is approaching right now. Let's see if he can clean that up now that he's relaxed and has that first run under his belt. Again, he takes the hit. That's what happened on the first run, and he should not be doing that. And late in the corner 9, a little bit frustrating for these Austrians.
Having started at 10, he shouldn't have been doing that when he was 12, never mind still doing it when he's 20. 20.1 kilometers now at the bottom of the track. First heat was 54.3, 54.0, so considerably quicker, much tidier. Will it be enough to bring him a little further up the order? There's only one way of finding out. We're going to have to send some more athletes down and see what they find. But Mel, again, now he's limping a little after clashing into the wall at the bottom.
Here's Kreisel. You can see those blue lines as markers as you're watching. His head is dropped down. He created a little bit of pressure, dropped out slightly early, bumped that left wall, and it'll put him late into corner 8. He's going into corner 10 here. Close to that roof. We want that high line so you can pick that exit. He's obviously hit something. I think it's probably his ankle on the short wall in that braking stretch.
Yeah, you'd have to think so, wouldn't you? Looks nasty. Well, Kyle Tress, the last 2 races, has failed to make the second heat cut. He has made it into the race here, and that's got to be a big relief for the 31-year-old from Lake Placid. Watched Skeleton in the Salt Lake Games 2002, contacted the US BSF shortly afterwards, and in his words, never left.
5:12. That's 400s faster than his first run. He has an interesting start where he has 2 hands, switches to the 1 hand, then back to the 2 hands for the load. I guess he just wants to try and maximize all that power off the block.
Well, so much of this sport, Melissa Hollingsworth, is very personal. Nothing that works for anybody else is necessarily going to work for you. And yeah, you know, he's juggling the sled between hand grips, but it does seem to work for him.
Oh, he's going late into corner 8. What that does is really flatten out corner 8 for you. It's difficult to get into corner 9, and that's how you generate all that speed. 98.5 kilometers an hour, going into corner 10, just under 120 kilometers an hour.
Well, this is a much better looking slide for Kyle Tress, and you can understand that in a little way. You know, he's missed the top 20 cut in the last 2 races. There must have been pressure at the top today to make it. Now he has, woof, you feel that relaxed, and he looks much more relaxed on the sled.
You can see he has 2 hands on his sled, quickly moves over to the 1-handed start. You have the option of using the right or the left groove with Skeleton. He's low on his sled. He does look a lot more relaxed on the second run than what he did on that first run.
Well, he built his first round lead up to 3,700s, then lost a little bit of speed down at the bottom. 2,200s up, though, so a better second run than his first. It's always what you're aiming for. Same deal will be the case for Matthias Guggenberger, 28-year-old. And unlike young teammate Raphael Meyer, only started sliding in skeleton sports when he got to 21. Made his World Cup debut back in the 2006-07 season.
You can't see his face, but by that body language, it's annoyance. This is his home track. He should be performing a lot better than what he did in that first run, so we may see him in the leader's box for quite some time if he puts together a regular run.
I certainly hope so. He's a lot better than his 18th place in the first heat shows. 5:16, not as quick as his first start, 5:11. But it was confusion, I think, and frustration with the overlying sort of expressions on his face at the end of the first heat.
Probably frustration, too, making mistakes that he doesn't typically make.
100th in front of Kyle Tress, having started just 300s up, brush on the wall, and they are level.
Oh,
Oh, skids off, hits the wall, still just in front, or just level in fact. Can the Austrian find any speed at the bottom? 1:19.8, he's going to be a couple of hundreds in front. I don't think this is really going to vault him up the order. 400ths of a second. He takes the lead from Kyle Tress, but it was certainly not the salvation run that he might have been hoping for.
No, not at all. And that's, look at him put his hand on his back. He is in some pain right there as he is rolling off the sled. He has been, oh, it's been so frustrating for him with his back injury all season long. When you crash into those mats, you just imagine you're clocking along there and all of a sudden you hit these foam mats, but you're going so fast and so much compression on your spine. Again, same mistake as the first run, just brushes that left-hand wall. Oh, and have a look at that.
And of course the back being twisted all over the place. Well, he injured his back pre-season and has only just been getting it back. I mean, there's got to be a better way of doing that, but what is it?
That's lots of money that needs to be invested in this Igls track to change this outrun. Well worth it when you're considering people's bodies.
Yeah. The risk of injury in the finish area is higher than anywhere else on the track. Next up is John Daly of the USA from Long Island, New York. Now lives in Smithtown. Proto-Star, American-built sled. And that's a much more John Daly start than the first heat, Melissa Hollings, with 5:09.
It is, and maybe he found some energy. Maybe his technique got slightly better with that sticky groove on the first run. One misstep will be 500ths difference at the top.
Well, one of the things you always see about John Daly is that his head is very upright. You see a lot of shoulders off the sled. He always seems to be looking up, looking where he's going.
He is. Aerodynamics is really important in this sport. I would love to see him with his shoulders lower on that sled, not having any airflow, quieter on the sled, but that's definitely his style.
Well, he found decent speed down the bottom, 1:19.9. I tell you what, on other days, Matthias Kuchenberg would be disappointed to be out of the leader's box. I don't think he is at the moment. John Daly survives that, but, you know, it is just a lottery. You're flying in there at a minimum of 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, and he lost his sled on the last day of training out of the finish corner. Said it was the first time he lost his sled in 12 years. Corner 10, he doesn't have as much height in that corner as what he needs, and then it crosses him over. He just touches the wall before 11, and then that makes you late through this labyrinth. You can see he's low at the beginning, high on the end, late into the next corner, and he's really muscling.
Well, he doesn't rattle off the walls, but he's having to steer hard to do it, and that all takes energy out of the sled. 16th after the first heat, Shinsuke Taiyama of Japan. Shinsuke Taiyama, he's got him on the brain. Hiro Takahashi of Japan. Melissa and I were just having a conversation about Taiyama and his disappearance from the World Cup for the last couple of races. Wonder whether they're going to see him back in Samoritz. Must catch up with Coach Koshi and find out.
Great shot of the spikes. There's about 460 pin needle spikes there so the athletes can grip the ice as they're sprinting, pushing the sled.
Well, last year was a real big breakout year for both Japanese sliders in World Cup. They seem to drag themselves by the bootstraps up from the bottom of the top 20 and regularly into the high teens and top 10 positions. This year they don't seem to have made similar amounts of progress, which is always a little frustrating for a coach and for the athletes. Well, this is going to be an archetypically close Igls race. 100th up, 100th back. 100th up, 400th up.
Great line out of corner 9. 120.5 kilometers an hour. That's one of the top speeds that we've seen in this second heat.
120.5 is fastest speed, 53.70. Goodbye to John Daly. Katsuhiro Koshi happy with that one. 3900's better than his first slide. And Melissa, we talked in the first slide about how neat he looked, and yet he had no speed. Maybe second heat, he just freed it up a little.
Yes, and you can make adjustments in between heats to your sled. So maybe he saw how cold the ice was, and he was safe on that first heat. Second heat, maybe he added some rocks, so there was less runner touching the ice, so he was a little more free sliding down the track. Double gun.
Nailed that one. Smoking, that is Katsuhiro Koshi, the coach, and a happy run, and that might keep him in the leader's box for some while. His next couple of sliders were less than 500s in front. Hiroki Takahashi of Japan leads from John Daly and Matthias Guggenberger. Ed Smith of Great Britain in 15th place after Heat 1 of 2 here in Igls, Austria. Martin Haven and Melissa Hollingsworth watching the action in the 8th of 9 World Cup races. And this young Briton, 100th in front of our current leader, Hiro Takahashi of Japan. 5:03, that's a better start, Ed.
400ths improvement from his first heat. And that's what you need. The quick, easy math we've been talking all day. 1/10 at the top of the track relates to about 2/10 at the bottom automatically. And with this easy track, everybody has pretty much the same lines. You need to take advantage of those start times.
800s up, he's gone down to 500ths of a second in front of Hiro Takahashi of Japan. The gap is down to 200s, and this is where it all started to drift away. Below corner 7, the Kreisel corner. Ed Smith just got slower and slower, and he's not got the speed. The Japanese will be in the leader's box, and Smith will slip a position here. Austrian flags flying, 53.75, 500ths of a second slower than Takahashi. And again, Melissa Hollingsworth, that outrun. You've just got to close your eyes and hope. And he looks like he's hurt himself up that wall as well.
It's just so much impact when it is hitting your head, and you don't have any control when you're going over top of those mats to control your sled, and if it throws you into the wall, that's it.
A better start. He's another long, rangy athlete at 5:03. Good getaway, Mel. Well, the top part of the track works well for him, but he's still not got the bottom unlacked. And, you know, we've got to be looking at a better way than this. We can't be injuring half the athletes just before the World Championships. Well,
there has to be an extension of the outrun. That's what they have to do. I don't know how they can do that with the ski hill that's there. They've built the tunnel already. It's difficult. It takes a lot of money.
The problem is, it's not that it's short, but that it's a corner. And that's hard to slow down on. From Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, Matt Antoine for the USA, 27-year-old, ex-track and field athlete, also a keen go-kart racer, and another who was inspired by the Salt Lake Games to go and try something even more crazy.
Antoine aus den USA ist gestartet. Schauen wir mal auf den ersten Lauf. 5:18 war dort seine Startzeit.
5:15, a fraction quicker than his first start, but that knee surgery he had mid-summer, Mel, that's going to be haunting him until next year.
Really is. It's going to take some time to recover. We're used to seeing Matt in the top 8, top 5 starting positions, but he still has to maintain his World Cup rankings so that the U.S. can qualify those maximum spots at the Olympic Games. But he's just not doing it in his normal style, where he has a fast start, all that confidence at the top that allows him to be that free-flowing driver.
Little wild in 9, down to 10. He is 600ths of a second behind the Japanese. Good exits here, though. Looks like a good labyrinth. Can he close? No, he's way out. 2/10 back. Very disappointing second slide. He drops to 4th as Hiro Takahashi starts to climb the order.
Matt does have that ideal body type for skeleton. He's tall, aerodynamic, and you can see that passion. This is what happens in sports. You win and you lose, and everybody is addicted to that competitive feeling. Here's the start. We're used to seeing him much faster, that knee surgery like we were saying. But look here, he is really muscling the sled. Late into corner 9, his legs are swinging out behind him. And when you're working that hard in these corners, it's just going to be cutting the ice and putting pressure into the sled and bleeding your time.
Well, he walked away without so much as a backward glance, really disgusted with himself. It wasn't the worst run you'll ever see, but not what he hoped for. Next up for Switzerland, Lukas Kummer with coach Mickey Grumberger from Laufen outside the city of Basel. 27-year-old slider.
Look at the power in the ice just spraying from his spikes.
Is he down in the zeros? Yes, he is. 5:02, another big getaway from him. We know he's only a third-year World Cup slider. And Melissa, we always see him start fast. He'll go 2nd, 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and, you know, slump all the way down the order. He's still not got the technique to keep that speed.
Not quite, but he does have more experience on this Igls track than any other track in the world. So, and it's shorter, so it allows him to take advantage of his start time and help him in the rankings once he's down at the bottom.
Just about contains that slide. 98.4 kilometers now, 61 miles an hour, and still accelerating fast into this labyrinth. But the gaps come down from a quarter second to under a 1/10 of a second, and he goes behind. Wow. Well, Lukas Kummer slips a spot. Of course, he heads home to Switzerland, to St. Moritz for the World Championships, and then he will be perhaps a little bit more in his comfort zone. But, well, 2 decent runs here, but he does slip behind Hiro Takahashi.
Well, with it being fairly close, he may have an opportunity to still move back up into that spot. Here's his Kreisel. He's above those blue lines, quiet form, wanting to have a little bit of height there on the exit so he can come out clean and straight, but he's just drifting to the right side of the track, going late into corner 8. Here's corner 10. He had a little bit of an abrupt entry and almost made this into a 2-pressure corner, and he gets late in this labyrinth. You can see, look at him working, and his shoulders come up and the leg comes up, makes him a domino effect through the bottom, and I would say that's where he lost that spot.
Yeah, so with coach Mickey Grumberger, the Austrian, he knows this track very well indeed. Well, next up is Johnny Fairbairn of Canada, 28-year-old from Calgary, Alberta, mechanical engineer who says that he wants to go into sled design. He's using one designed by the South Alberta Institute of Technology, the SATE sleds. But he's clearly got ideas and a mind of his own, just like John Montgomery. He wants to design his own sleds.
5'11", that's 800s faster than his first push. That will give him a huge advantage going through this short Igls track. John is a very serious guy, an engineer, always trying to, have the math and science behind him. But his fiance told me the other day his absolute favorite thing to do is play laser tag. So can you imagine this guy?
He's a proper nerd then. Yeah. Oh dear, poor old Randy. Never mind, she might lose her husband to laser tag. Tied for the lead now with Hiro Takahashi.
Great form on his sled, but now he drops behind.
1200's up at the start, but not finding the pace. Hiro's still the only man to crack 120 at the bottom. And fourth place finish for him. 53.96 slide, exactly the same as his first heat time, despite starting quicker.
Yeah, he had that bump out of Kreisel. Little tiny mistakes, but when you're only separated by hundredths in a crew, it's easy to do that, where you're sitting in the first spot and you can drop back by 4. Comes out of Kreisel here. Little bit of height there, it just bumps the wall and it pushes him away. You can see the snow fly off the wall. It's going to be scrubbing some time.
Well, one of the great things about Skeleton is you can see so much of what's going on. One of the difficult things is that so much is still invisible, like what you're doing with the runners and how the runners are set up. Well, we've just seen John Fairbairn of Canada now tie for 10th place coming up. 2 British sliders. Dom Parsons first, and then Kristen Bromley, of whom Dom is very much the junior. Came into the World Cup midway through the season, replacing Dave Swift, who's gone to the Intercontinental Cup. Made his debut in Lake Placid, having, beg your pardon, in La Platte, having been in Park City, Utah the previous weekend. That was a travel stroke training week that he won't want to repeat in a hurry. And that's a big start. 5 flats for Dom Parsons.
Great start. And last day of training, he had a bad crash in the exit in that finish corner, and he actually has a hole in his arm. And aerodynamics is key in this sport of skeleton, so padding, that's not even a consideration. If he has a big chunk of padding on his shoulder, he'll just be slowing himself down. So that is a bare arm that he'll be sliding with, and that will be on his mind when he comes across the finish line.
2600s up on Hiro Takahashi, out to 3400s at the first clock, back down to 28. Hiro with a couple more seasons World Cup experience. Dom Parsons still trying to find the speed at the bottom, but it looks as though he may be the first man to put Takahashi out of the leader's box. He is. 53.72 slide.
Good.
Well, that was a big rise from Hiro Takahashi, 16th off the first heat, and it's the 11th placed slider, or joint 10th, who finally bumps him out of the lead.
What's the downtime? 53.72.
When we come across the finish line going under that tunnel, we can't see the clock. So you have no idea what your time was, what your ranking is. It's really important that, you know, obviously your expression is going to be determined on how well you did. Look at that speed. A little bit of a rough load there, but it didn't hurt him at all. Look at that velocity. 50.2 kilometers an hour, and that all comes from his start.
Yeah, that's very good. We won't see too many faster than that. There is your race leader, Dom Parsons from Great Britain. And the next is his teammate, Kristen Bromley. Well, Dom's just found 2100s more in the track than in the first heat. With Shelley Rumban holding the sled, what has the brain of Dr. Ice produced? 17 years sliding for Great Britain. Kristen Bromley, 40-year-old CEO of Bromley Tech, born and bred in Sheffield in Yorkshire. Well, 2008 was his year of years, his season of seasons. He won the World Championship, the World Cup, and the European Championship. If it was there to be won, he did it. 5:13 getaway, again, quicker than his first heat.
And a smooth entrance into corner 1. He had problems with the groove that first run. It was pulling him other directions. Kristen has a very interesting sliding style. I always talk about it. You see his legs moving around quite a bit, but you're not going to see his shoulders move. His sled setup is specific for that, so he has that type of control going down the track.
Well, look at him come. It looks wild, and this is the perplexement of Kristen Bromley. Sometimes he's wild and ragged and slow. Sometimes he's wild and ragged and fast, and this is the fast, wild and ragged Kristen Bromley. Now, in the final corner, he takes the lead from Dom Parsons, and over 2 miles of ice and a couple of minutes of 5-speed sliding. There are 200ths of a second between the teammates. Wow, 53.70 slide for Kristen Bromley to break that tie and guarantee a top 10 finish.
Comes out of corner 8. Have a look at his legs, and that sled almost skids a little bit on that pressure. He's using his toes to try and straighten himself out, because it must just feel like he is on this, I don't know, a very light, skiddy sled.
I feel it impossible to read him. Kristen Bromley is our race leader nonetheless. Dominic Parsons in second place. A great slide from Hiro Takahashi leaves him third with 10 to go.
Besonders mit der Startnummer 10 ins Rennen gegangen. Kristen Bromley, der älteste, 40 Jahre jung. Kristen Bromley. Und ab heute wieder, das steht jetzt schon fest, bevor dann die besten 9 ab dem ersten Punktkampf kommen, wird das eine Topleistung, eine Weltklasseleistung. Die Meisterkanal ist so viel. Ich habe gleich ein bisschen traurig, bin ich eigentlich schon, aber traurig ist vielleicht falsch ausdrücken, aber ich hätte natürlich schon erhofft, dass unsere beiden Österreicher da ein bisschen weiter vorne mitmischen können.
Wie gesagt, es gibt so die Tage, es gibt auch Bahnen, selbst wenn es ein Rennbahn ist, in dem man auch nicht so zurechtkommt. Das muss es sein, es muss man nicht, auch wie gesagt, der Nachwuchs stehen in den Stadion, wenn man das auch in der Bewegung gesehen. Ich glaube, da kommt schon noch einiges nach und dazu, dass man das erste Ziel ist. Und dann natürlich die Heim-Weltmeisterschaft 2016 werden wir auch ein ordentliches, tolles Team aus österreichischer Sicht beisammen haben. Ein bisschen Pause haben wir noch. Ich schaue mal vor zu unserer Rennleitung, zu unserer Zeitnehmung, die uns hier wunderbar mit Infos versorgen. Und dann geht es in wenigen Augenblicken wieder los mit dem nächsten Starter. Die besten 9 stehen noch oben nach dem ersten Lauf. So, wir schauen hinaus auf den Rennsteig nach Oberhof. Da macht sich jetzt einer oben bereit. Aus Deutschland. Alexander Kröckel, der jetzt in wenigen Sekunden hier die Startfreigabe erhalten wird.
Und Alexander hat die Startnummer 1 gehabt im ersten Durchgang. Die ist die 9. Zeit gefahren im ersten
Innsbruck, Igls, Austria, round 8 of the Wiesmann FIBT Skeleton Men's World Cup. Martin Haven and Canadian slider Melissa Hollingsworth watching the action. Last 10 to go in our 20 down to 1 second and deciding heat. And this is our 9th place finisher after the first slide. Alexander Kröckel. Now, Melissa, we've talked about the outrun on this track. He damaged his wrist in the final day of training. That has got to be really uncomfortable, sliding, lying on top of it.
It is, especially when you're pushing the sled. Now, I'm not sure which wrist it is that he hurt, but, you know, they were worried he broke it, so we don't have any confirmation on it, but Kröckel definitely is in pain. And when you're sliding, you can't be thinking about those things at all. You have to be in the moment, relaxing, stick to your game plan.
Well, our race leader is Great Britain's Kristen Bromley. From a 10th up at the start, the gap has come down to 300s. Looks much neater than Bromley, but skidding all over the place. He's going to drop into the red here. 100th in front. Oh, and slightly better speed than Kristen Bromley. He may just keep his nose in front. Oh, and he does. 53.68 now. I thought coming down out of corner 9, he just lost the lead. But then things always happen in life just to prove me wrong. He did it there.
That's not a trend that you see on an Igls track where you are ahead and you lose time and then you gain some time.
Well, just 22 years old, Alex Kröckel. Good fast start. You need to be so committed in this sport. You can't be worrying about an injury, Melissa.
Not at all. Corner 9, he comes out low line. Much better than the first heat where he came over and tapped the wall, but he is going a little bit late into corner 10.
Well, the 22-year-old is our race leader, last year's junior world champion. Next up is a man who has reached perhaps the greatest achievement that he can in the sport, which is to claim the Olympic gold medal on home ice. John Montgomery of Canada.
Yes, he made all of Canada proud, and especially Manitoba, the province he's from. And, you know, his family is watching right now. His wife, Darla, is a skeleton slider as well. She'll be up there cheering.
5:02, great start from John. Called the women's race alongside me yesterday, and putting all of his talents to good use. And Melissa, looking for another Olympic qualification standard race here to try and get a top 6 finish would be a great result for him.
It really would, and his confidence definitely improved after Kuduzé having a top 6 place in the Olympic qualifier. You can see this is John in his normal sliding style. He's quiet, he's relaxed. You can just see that determination on his face as he's heading down this track.
99.3 is good speed. speed. He's got a good lead, 2900s, 120.3 kilometers an hour. He somehow pulled the fat out of the fire there, rescued that one. How much in front? He's still got 1100s. Wow, 53.68 slide, exactly the same as Alexander Krökel, and so he remains 1100s in front of him. That was near disaster, and he's really beating himself up for that, because a chance of a top 6 finish might just have slipped from his grasp.
And that all happened on the entrance of corner 11. He just went a little bit too early. You can see here he is in 10. He has the height, but he pulls the sled out. He's too early going into 11. It pushes him away, and he gets all this height on the exit. The corner ends, and the pressure releases, and there's nowhere for John to go except for on his bumpers. And it's critical. He's tied for 7th right now. He was having a fantastic run. For him to have that top 6 to qualify for the Canadian Olympic team in Sochi.
Well, Montgomery was tied with our junior world champion, Christopher Grothair. The 20-year-old won the title on this track in December. He was runner-up to Alex Krökel last year in the junior worlds. Started ski jumping age 6. Went to sports high school in Oberhof, where he lives, and started on the skeleton sleds 4 whole years ago. And he's already got 2 junior world medals, a silver last year and a gold this.
Grothair ist gestartet, 5:16 im ersten Durchgang.
5:08, 800s faster than his first start. I would have to say that the sun has come out a little bit. It's warming up. That start is not as sticky, so that's the trend. Everybody is speeding up.
Well, it was -8 this morning when we arrived at the track at 8 a.m. It's now warmed up nicely to a quite balmy -2. And, of course, that changes the track, you know, minute by minute. 1600s behind Montgomery, didn't start as quick as John and is having trouble catching him. Now, will that change here? He gets a skatey exit as well.
Yes, and he's having an interesting run. Little mistakes here and there that are compiling all the way down the track.
Can he close? 120.6 is only a whisker closer than John Montgomery. Oh my goodness, he somehow does squeeze in front. 53.63 slide. Well, it took a while for not making John's mistake to allow him to catch our Olympic champion, but in the end, he did so. Well, again, taking 800ths of a second out of the start. It's a little bit of a warmer track at the top, helping him with that push.
Comes out of 8. 9, he has a nice line out of 9, but he overcorrects. You can see he's thinking that he's going to drift to his left, and so he pulls aside to the right, and then he tries to come back, and he drifts late into 10.
There is our race leader, Christopher Grothair. John Montgomery leaves the leader's box. A bit of a grimace on his face. Eric Nielsen now. He had a bit of a grimace on his face yesterday. Still listening to his internal iPod, isn't he? Came out to watch the women's race yesterday morning. After the first heat, he just had to go home and has spent most of the remaining 24 hours in bed, sweating with a fever.
That's not an internal iPod. That's his coach, Keith Loach, playing an iPod behind him, the Scottish music, to get him fired up.
Well, to make him want to leave in a hurry. Coach Loach this weekend, because Duff Gibson, the head coach of the Canadian program, is back home in the fire station where he works during the summer, doing a week of night shifts. I have no idea what his body clock's going to be like when he gets back to Europe again. Nice looking slide. He's gone from 14 to 2300s up. 27. Faceman is really relaxing into this. Maybe he's had a little bit of a snooze between the heats.
A little bit late in 8, late into 9. See how he can handle this, but not a terrible hit. Eric is one of the bigger sliders on tour, so that mass is going to help him with that velocity at the bottom of the track.
Top speed, he continues to pull away. This is not just sealing a top 6 finish, this is challenging those in front. Good run. 53.46 slide for Eric Nielsen, and that's 0.2 of a second, give or take, quicker than his first heat.
There we go. He's going to be happy. I think that is his last Olympic qualifier that he needs this season. Look at him, fist pump. strong start as he's preparing for Sochi. Right now, his body is very, very tired, but kind of allows him to relax a little more on his sled.
Yeah, that fluey feverishness makes you a bit of a sack of jelly anyway. Top speed at the bottom, guaranteed top 6, and you're right. He was 6th in Salt Lake, 5th in Whistler. It's his 3rd top 6 finish of the season, so ticking all the boxes here. Only minutes away from heading home for a nice warm duvet.
I think he would like a Kleenex right now.
Yeah. Next up is Germany's Frank Rommel, the only man who's not called Martins to have won a race this year. And indeed, the only man who's not called Martins to have won a race last year, too. Frank Rommel, 27 years old now. Lots of experience. And here, though, the start is going to be his undoing. 5:17 gives away so much time. That's only the 16th fastest start in the first heat. Won't be much quicker in the second.
But look at his form on his sled. He is so sleek and very quiet. That's how he finds that crazy speed at the bottom of every track, is because he's doing minimal work and he's so perfect on his sled.
When he's starting, he is the sports monster. When he's sliding, he is the mild-mannered bank worker that he is in the summertime. And, somehow he combines them. 100 kilometers an hour of top speed. This is quick.
121.6 kilometers an hour.
Closing. 700's behind. He'll take the lead here. He does by 100. Well, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that Eric might move up another spot, but into the leader's box goes Frank Rommel. Holds his top 5 position.
Those are the time gaps that are typical for this Igls track, not the 3/10 gap that we have in our podium position sliders right now. One-handed start was actually started by the Canadians before 2002, the Salt Lake Olympics.
Well, Frank Rommel's taken a medal in the last 2 races. Bronze in Altenburg, silver in Koenigsee. That progression, barring some weird miracle or series of disqualifications, isn't going to happen. Being congratulated by friends and family. Frank Rommel, the race leader, from Eric Nielsen and Christopher Grotehair, with 4 to go.
There's his wife, Julia.
Oh, I didn't see her hiding down the bottom, yes. Thomas Dukors of Latvia in 4th place after the first heat, and 200s away from the medals. Can he get back onto the podium here in Igls in Austria?
4:95, fantastic start for Thomas. That's a 10th faster than his first heat.
Well, Melissa, he was early in the first runs, only 7th though, so the start shouldn't have been too sticky for him. But if he can go a 10th quicker, then maybe his brother can, and Alexander Tretyakov as well.
Thomas had a kind of a little messy run everywhere, just little problems on entrance and exits through his entire first heat. This is looking calm and relaxed. Maybe he changed his sled setup slightly in between heats to adapt to the different ice conditions.
Well, one of the advantages that the Dukors brothers have is that, of course, they can resource their knowledge between each other. Their dad, their coach, builds the sleds, and so they know them intimately, and they work so well for them. And look at that, 53.02. That would have left him in 2nd place in the first heat. And again, Melissa, sharp intake of breath as she sees Thomas rattle down that wall.
Oh, it's just such an abrupt corner, and when that mat catches you, it just throws you into whatever angle, position that you're in. He's happy that he kept that position. Here's corner 10. He's getting that high line. He can pick his entrance into 11. He sticks his toe out slightly so he doesn't go too early and then create all that pressure in the end. We saw John Montgomery come out in his bumpers here.
Great exit there, isn't he? Right in the middle of the track. Big speed as well from Thomas Dukors. Now, is that going to be enough to win him a medal for the 4th time this season? In the pink hat, you see yesterday's race winner, the new European champion, 20-year-old Yelena Nikitina of Russia, and her teammates banging the hoardings for their teammate Sergei Chulinov. First chance of a World Cup medal. Career best is 4th place. 28-year-old Muscovite. And like teammate Maria Oliver yesterday, one of his potential failings is that he struggles sometimes to get into really consistent heats. Can he do it here? 5:08 to 5:05 already gives away a 10th, though, to Thomas Dukos, and he only had 200s in the hand.
The Russians did miss the Altenburg World Cup. They chose to come to the Igls Intercontinental race so that they could get a couple of extra runs, because the European Championships are a really important race to have a good result. So they have this extra training this season already on this track, and it definitely helped them in their women's race. Let's see if it'll help them in their men's results.
Chudi is having, I'm afraid, a really horrible second heat, and it's really hard to see why. Again, maybe he went the wrong way if you change setup between the runs. He's gone from 800s behind to 410s behind, and it's half a second at the line. In the medals for the 4th time this season is Thomas Dukos, and out of the European Championship contenders has gone Sergei Chulinov of Russia. Well, top 4 finish, that will equal his career best, but it is not where he wanted to be.
He was working quite a bit. You can see his elbows will come out a little bit. He's pulling on the handles of the sled. His body is moving. And that's what happens when you get a little bit late in some corners and you start working really hard.
Well, we've seen a few athletes who visibly seem to be much more loose and relaxed, and he was the opposite, seemed to be tighter, and you know, that focus on trying to find a performance may have distracted him from actually unearthing it. More noise now for Alexander Tretyakov, 2nd in Heat 1. When we saw him put his run down, we thought, wow, nobody's going to get close to that. In the end, he's got a mountain to climb. He is 38 hundredths off the lead, but this is to take a silver medal here in World Cup number 8 and a silver medal in the European Championships. And potentially equal his track record of 4.78. Can he get there? No, 4.84. It's still a 10th of a second quicker than his first run.
Wow. He's always so motivated on these second heats when Martins out-pushes him in the first heat. He comes out and he just rips off a fantastic start. Russian Rocket, that's his nickname.
As you said, Melissa, the Russian skipped Altenburg. His worst result of the season has been 4th. He's been 2nd twice, 3rd 3 times. So he'll add another medal to his haul. Is there a chance, as he still holds a near half-second advantage over Thomas Dukos, that he could win here against Martins? Anything's possible in this sport. Great speed, look at that.
122.2 kilometers an hour.
Well, if he doesn't win, it won't be for want of trying. 52.82. That was a great run. Wow, that was 7/10 of a second quicker than Sergei Chulinov, his teammate, and 2/10 quicker than Thomas Dukos, the race leader.
So impressive watching him go through his career with a fast start and now learning how to drive.
Well, 2 smoking runs from Alexander Tretyakov.
Kind of made the same mistake there as John Montgomery, but he kept it low on the exit. You can see there's a little bit of airtime between his runners and that ice. That's danger.
Is that too far from perfect? Has that left the door open? Only 1 minute will tell us. Martins Dukos of Latvia, the benchmark in men's skeleton. Last year he won everything. World Championship, World Cup, European Championship, all but 1 race. He's won all but 1 race so far this season as well. 28 years old. If there's ever been an athlete in peak form in this sport, you're looking at him right now. What can Superman do? His kryptonite has just gone down. Alexander Tretyakov, can he stay in front of him? 491 first heat, could get down into the low 480s, he does, 485.
So impressive of how he is always challenging Tretyakov for that #1 rank spot beside his name at the start. And you can't tell me that, you know, the Triple Crown isn't in the back of his head. It is, he has to win this race to have that opportunity to be winning that pot of 100,000 euros.
Absolutely. Winner last week in Koenigsegg. If he's to win here, then he'll have to win in Sochi to put his name into the hat for the 100,000 euro in the Triple Trophy.
101.1 kilometers an hour. That's the fastest speed all day going into corner 10.
123 kilometers an hour. It's just unbelievable the way he does this. Martins Ducours makes everybody look like absolute beginners. 52.45 slide. He set a new track record at 52.68 in the first heat. That is vaguely verging on the ridiculous. Nearly a quarter second inside his own track record. Yes. And there is the explosion of pent-up aggression that he has kept out of his mind all the way down the track.
So impressive. He takes the field. He wins by 3/4 of a second on this short track.
Wow, that is insane. What form he is in. And brother Thomas will join him on the podium again. First and third for Latvia. Our new European champion is our World Cup leader, Martins Ducours.
He's blowing a kiss to his baby girl, who's about 7 months right now. Back
Sure,
home
we
in
will
Latvia.
see her soon on tour. Well, from the moment he rocks off the blocks to the moment he blasts through the finish line, Mel, if you want to know how to do it, this is how it is done.
Absolute textbook. Makes everything look so easy, and the question is, how?
Yeah. Well, the answer is very simple. You get the steers right onto the corners, you come off the corners right. And like every great driver, whatever sport you're talking about, it's what goes on between the ears. It's the speed of those synapses that allows him to make those judgments just better, quicker than anyone else. Martins Ducours is our race winner. Ed Smith there with Ella Bromley. And Martins Ducours blows away the opposition. Alexander Tretiakov, again, head and shoulders above Thomas Ducours, who climbs above Sergei Chudanov onto the podium. Frank Rommel, Eric Nielsen, 5th and 6th position. Well, we'll be back to hear from our top 3 in just a second.
Sind auch wichtig, aber da geht es natürlich erstens enorm Sicherheit in der Bahn. Mit allen notwendigen Informationen. Ein tolles Rennen am heutigen zweiten Tag des Weltcups und der Europameisterschaften 2013 ist zu Ende gegangen.
Igls Austria, round 8 of the Wiesmann FIBT Skeleton Men's World Cup, and another victory for Martins Dukurs of Latvia, his 7th of the season, and one of his most commanding, 3/4 of a second in front of Alexander Tretyakov and Thomas Dukurs, and they reflect the European Championship finale standings as well, with no North American sliders or non-Europeans in the top 6. Christian Bromley 8th, Dom Parsons 9th in the European Championships, and there you can see the rest of the finishers. Well, the triple trophy presented by the FIBT will offer a part of €100,000 for any athletes to win the last 3 World Cup competitions of the season. The classics at Koenigsee, Igls and St. Moritz will be those races in the next 2 seasons, but this year St. Moritz holding the World Championships means that it will be Sochi which will be the deciding race, the final World Cup of the season and the Olympic tryout event. And Martins Dukurs is already 2/3 of the way towards sticking his hand into the suitcase for the cash. He wins again and leads the World Championship from brother Thomas Dukurs. Not too many changes up and down the order at this week's event. And Dukurs looks a shoo-in now to win the overall Crystal Globe, because Melissa Hollingsworth, he again he looks like a professional in an amateur field. Without any disrespect to the others, he does so much better.
Yeah, strong start, and his driving ability, the equipment all the time and money they put into that, and obviously that confidence and that attitude.
You know, even the coaches can't believe how good he is. Well, let's find out what our top 3 thought of it. Let's join John Morgan.
And we're down at our flower ceremony. Heinz Thoma, the director of the skeleton sport for the International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation. Guys, hold the flowers up. Let's see it. Perfect. And now our interviews, we go over to our 3rd place finisher. Thomas, a good second run for you. Your first one was a little sloppy.
Yeah, because it was a tight race, I was more focused and did much better push, and also run improved, and so. But still, I can't catch these guys in push and also in finish, so I need to work more.
Maybe talk to your father, help you out. Yeah. Now over to the Russian Rocket, Russia and Igls. Good results.
Да, 2-е место, хороший результат. Я очень доволен, счастлив. Спасибо тренерам, всему персоналу, кто работал над этим результатом, помогал мне. Ну и, конечно, болельщикам, кто болел, переживал. Спасибо.
He says thanks to a lot of people, and yeah, they've had good results here, and he's had good results. Silver medal, and now we talk to the guy, Martins Dukurs, who's 2/3 of the way on to winning that trophy. And this FIBT trophy, I mean, you realize that you're 1 race away from €100,000?
Yeah, it sounds really great, but at first I would like to say thanks for FIBT to giving us that chance, but it's not over till it's over, so 1 more race and we'll see.
Well, if there's anybody who deserves to win it, you do with your record. Congratulations, everybody.
Well, congratulations indeed to our defending title holder, the European champion last year, and this, Martins Dukurs of Latvia. Alexander Tretyakov taking 2nd. Thomas Dukurs on the left of your shot there, the bronze medalist in the race and in the European Championships. My thanks to Melissa Hollingsworth and to John Morgan for their assistance and calling the race with me. I'm Martin Haven saying thank you for joining us on behalf of the whole FIBT TV crew here in Igls, Austria. We'll see you next time out. Until then, auf Wiedersehen and goodbye.